Welcome everybody. Thanks for coming. Appreciate your support. I just want to talk briefly about myself for a minute and about the Dr. Cheez project. I was actually born in northern Cuba, which some people refer to as Miami, Florida, but I actually have a picture here of my sister's granddaughter and my cousin's granddaughter, so I have Latino cousins. But anyway, I was raised in South Florida. I was there for 17 years, went in the Air Force, had an illustrious Air Force career. Then I got my BA in behavioral science. Over the last 20 years, I've been working with foster youth and group home setting. And a few years ago, I got this idea. I've been known for my poetry and jokes for a long time. I got this idea to do a book called Slices of Cheez. That's all I was going to do, is just write down some of my poetry and my jokes and just do a book called Slices of Cheez. This was in March of 2013 with Matt. He was going to help me with it, Matt Cora, for a few. And then all of a sudden I started putting my humor into cartoon forms. And fast forward to November of 2013, I went in to get my will changed at a law office near here. And after I did that, I had 600 cartoon sketches I set up on the desk, and I told this legal associate there about the cartoons, and he says, you should try and get an illustrator on Craigslist and maybe go try and get in the newspapers. So I said, let's do it. And so that's how I met Rich, the ink slinger. And so at first, like I said, I was just starting out to write poetry and joke books. And the next thing you know, I got 12 cartoon books, cartoon comic books, and 13 poetry and joke books. This is a couple years later, fast forwarded. And then I also have Secret Joe, which you're going to hear from in a few minutes. He helped me edit and type up my poetry books in this very library, actually. In 2007, I was awarded an honorary doctorate in cheesiology from Cheddar University. It's a very distinguished university. And so a lot of the teens on the campus only know me as Cheez. They don't even know my real name. I joined a group one time for people who talk too much. It's called On and On and On, so I'm not going to go too long. But anyway, I'm going to, in a moment. Oh yeah, so then I knocked on a few newspaper syndicate doors, and they're like, well, we have a few hundred applicants a year, and we only pick one. So it's like, okay, so we'll keep doing the books. So for now, I don't know how well known I'll be someday, but for now I'm just having fun. Then with the Slices of Cheez joke and poetry books, Secret Joe helped me type and edit them up, and I'm going to have him come up and say a few words too.
Thank you very much. So good evening. I'm so glad you're here. I have had the distinct honor and privilege of getting to work with Dr. Cheez. We worked at the same site for a while, and he approached me and he said, I need somebody who's going to be able to edit my work. And I said, no problem. It wasn't the editing that's the problem, it was reading his handwriting. that was the challenge. So we collaborated, and it was actually really, really wonderful. Getting to know him and getting to see his work and his passion and the difference that he wanted to make in the world. So I am honored to be here and to be able to contribute to you guys, and to be able to read at least one poem that we both really, really liked. And I'll read it, and I'll let you guys decide how you like it. The story of Gubertina and Guberana. This is the story of Gubertina and Guberana McPherson. They thought and they thought, and they thought a lot. And then they thought about things they thought they could not. They thought about space, and they thought about time. They thought about lace, and they thought about rhyme. They thought about things that they didn't think they could think. They thought about slime, and they thought about stink. Next, they thought about things that were pretty in pink. Then they would think some thoughts about something that rots. They would think about things that were too deep to delve, and they'd think about things they'd need to shelve. They thought about E equals MC squared, and they thought about things that made them both scared. And when they thought about all the thoughts they could think, and when they thought about all the thoughts that they thought they could not, I think what they thought was that our happy thoughts are really all that we've got that mean a lot. I know, right? Yeah. That was really
an audio Cheez book for me.
I know, right? It's so cool.
You got Bucky and Gooby?
Should we do Bucky
yes,
and Gooby?
Please.
Okay.
That's their brothers, Bucky and Gooby McPherson.
Yeah. So the next one is The Adventures of Bucky and Gooby. This is the story of Bucky and Gooby McPherson, two brothers who never got along. One would say ping, the other would say pong. Then one day, Bucky told Gooby, we would be strong if only we could get along. So together they made a gobbledygook and a super pooper scooper that really scooped poop. Then everything became sugar, spice, and everything nice. Together they made the comma and the exclamation point and invented a joint that didn't have a point. They invented a cement tire and a rubber road, and they invented a bomb that didn't explode. Then they bred a hornless horny toad. Next, they bred a duck with big lips and invented a hippo without any hips. Then they wrote jokes without punchlines and grew some grapes without vines. They finally agreed when they got along, they could accomplish a lot, whether anything made sense or not. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes. So I'm here with Rich Tackett, aka the Ink Slinger, in his little art studio, and Rich is a professional graphic illustrator and artist, and Dr. Cheez hired him to help with his cartoon sketches. And so when Dr. Cheez initially contacted you about his cartoon sketches he wanted to present to newspapers, you replied that your studio in Old Town at the time would be ideal. He started putting his cartoons into finished publishable form, and when he wasn't accepted in the newspaper syndicates, you helped him upload his cartoon books and his joke and poetry books, as well as managing his websites. I think there were 16 books the first year, and 8 books the second 16. Year. Wow. 8 books the second year, and this year he's been doing mostly paintings. He still did a couple books, but what's a couple things you think about his cartoons and his humor since you've known him and working with him?
What do I think about Dr. Cheez's humor? Well, he's kind of got two modes. One's very traditional, like setup, punchline, payoff, and the other one's just kind of weird, non sequitur type stuff. And a lot of that I really like because it makes me laugh, and I don't even know why. It's just the ending is so out of left field. It just cracks me up. There was one cartoon that he did that had these had a couple guys sitting at a table, and it involved like projectile vomiting. And every time I just think about it, and it makes me laugh. So Dr. Cheez has a really original sense of humor.
So when you here's, for instance, one of his cartoon sketches. So when you get that, and you, I don't know, want to show the camera, you take that just a a regular little cartoon sketch he does with an ink pen and paper, and you work magic even with his book covers. Like here's a couple examples you've done. He did little sketches of his book covers, but you turn them into that magic with your Cintiq. You want to explain a couple of your techniques, how you take a simple sketch idea of his, say for one of his book covers he gives you,
The
and then
process.
what you do with the computer, your interactive computer.
Well, yeah, he gives me the basic concept in kind of a chicken scratch form, but all the information's there. He's very good at the props and the staging and whatnot. And then I redraw it by hand, and then I scan it into the computer, and then on the screen I color it on the Cintiq, and I ink it, and then of course I digitally add in the type and all the other elements. And I appreciate you calling it magic. That's what I do.
As Dr. Cheez calls it, the magic board.
Yeah.
Could you show a couple inside, a couple cartoons inside that you've taken of my sketches and how you did it in the book?
Yeah.
Show a
so
little
we
bit
can
of your drawing ability. He gives you
see
artistic
if we can
license
find-
on the drawing of his sketches, of his original little sketches, and you do some
Find
wonders
it.
on some of those.
Well, like here's one of George Washington crossing the Delaware, which is based on that famous painting. So I did a real cartoony version of that. This one he's got Dracula, the werewolf, and Frankenstein. And, it's my little cartoon interpretation. So there's a couple of examples, and the kind of choices that I make are, like the black spotting, the lights and darks, and a little bit of the placement and whatnot. But the whole storytelling, the setup, and everything is all straight from the original sketch. That answers your
So,
question.
is there anything else that has been fun for you working with Dr. Cheez on his cartoons?
Well, just Dr. Cheez, the person. We always have a good time cracking each other up, and he's fun to be around. So I enjoy that part of. It's not exactly part of the process, but I enjoy that part of the situation.
So you both keep each other humored.
Yeah, you gotta keep things light and funny, because that's gonna translate into the work. You don't want to be too serious about it, or you're just gonna drain the life out of it. So, even while you're discussing concepts and jokes, whether they work or not, just keep it lively and keep laughing, and hopefully that'll translate to people reading it.
So a little history about you. You've been going to Comic-Con since you were a kid, and you're based here in San Diego, California. So if you want to elaborate on that for a minute, I know you helped Cheez go as a guest. You helped him be a guest on your pass on the last several Comic-Cons.
Yeah, that's so he can promote his book, and he's very good about that. He's a very good man on the street sort of promotion guy. As far as my own experience with the Comic-Con, I've been going since, I believe, 77, 78, when I was 10 or 11 years old. And I've gone almost every year since then. So, of course, I'm very inspired by cartoons of all kinds. And I'm grateful that I live in San Diego, because not only do you get ideas, but it just the energy of it kind of, it's like a battery you can carry for the rest of the year.
Did that inspire you to become an artist and illustrator at that young age, or were you already in that direction, but then Comic-Con happened to be here and you started going at a young age?
But really what inspired me to be an artist was I did a tracing of Tigger in a Winnie the Pooh book, and I showed it to my aunt, and she said, "This is amazing, you got to do more of that." And once I got that kind of reaction, I just wanted the attention, so I kept doing it. That's it.
And then you finally graduated from the university. And
Yeah, I just think all kids draw, and I kept doing it, and I got encouraged, and other kids, they stop doing it, and they become realistic about their lives and pick a real profession, but I never did, and I stayed serious about it and through college, and I'm still trying. I always keep trying, And a lot of people say, never give that up. It's a great thing, but it can be a curse as well as a blessing. It's like I don't have a choice. This is what I do. I don't have a choice.
And you do it well. Thank you very much. This is Rich Tackett,
Thank you.
the Ink Slinger.
Thank you.
Thank you. So in closing, I've shared a history of how the Dr. Cheez project got started, and also that was at the art exhibit, and Secret Joe shared at the art exhibit. Then there was an interview with the Ink Slinger at the studio here, and now in closing, I just want to share exactly what I do. So before I met Rich, I had done about 650 cartoon sketches, and this is actually an early concept book, Cheesy Tunes concept book I did when I first started. I was doing like one cartoon per page just to kind of get an idea of what I was thinking about doing a book. First, of course, was the idea to do a joke and poetry book, and then I ended up doing cartoon sketches and by the hundreds. And so this, like I said, was just an early concept book I did at Staples originally. Once I met Rich and we got started, I started bringing him like 20 brand new cartoons a week, cartoon sketches a week to do. So let's see, 60 in each book. So we were able to do a book, a new cartoon book, like every 3 weeks. So the first year I did like 16 cartoon books, and then I slowed it down to 8 the second year, and then this year I've been mostly doing paintings, and but we still managed to do a couple books this year. But anyway, one thing my jokes and my cartoons and my poetry and my art sketches all have in common is I try and have a flip the script element in them. I want to show you a couple examples. So here's one of my concept art pieces. Of course, my conceptual art pieces, when I do the original sketch, then Rich does the finish work on each one of my sketches for my conceptual art pieces, which I'll get to the paintings here in a little bit, but just to give you an idea, what a great job he does with the finish illustration on these. Here's one of my little original sketch, but you can see quite a difference it makes in the finished form. It's just incredible. The same with my cartoon sketches. This is one he did in color for me. Giant screen drive-in theater. Just to give you one example. And he had the idea to do their wardrobe in like J.C. Penney instead of like Jack and the Beanstalk garb, which I thought was a great idea. So back to the script here. So yeah, besides my joke and poetry books, my cartoon sketches, I probably have 1,800 of them total. We put like 700 of them into book form so far, but sometimes I just wanted to give you an idea that if I do them on the fly sometimes, this one's on. I thought of when I was at the bank on the back of a bank envelope. I just did the cartoon sketch right on the spot. One of the secrets to doing that is even like sometimes I'll get up to go to the bathroom at 2 in the morning and I'll get this idea for a cartoon, and I just take 5 or 10 minutes to do the whole cartoon before I go back to sleep. So I've saved hundreds of cartoons by doing it that way, because I know that I'll go back to sleep and the next day I'll be like, wow, I had a great idea about a cartoon, but I can't remember it anymore because I went back to sleep. Here's one I did, just a 2-panel one that was on the back of my dentist card. Here's one on the back of my lawyer's card. I did a 6-panel one just when I thought of it. Like I said, when I think of them, the characters, the dialogue, the scenes, and the flip the script titles. A lot of times the title is the punchline to my cartoons, but this just this just gives you an idea that we've got hundreds and hundreds more to do, more books to come in the future. This is just some. I have another whole bag full of sketches. Like I said, probably 1,800 of them total. Um, and we've only put like 700 of them into cartoon books so far. What else did I want to share about on that? So yeah, so Rich does them on the computer, uploads them to createspace.com. So now anybody these days can really be an independent author if they want. You go to createspace.com. Also, I decided to do some serious art. I want to show you an example of here's one of my paintings that, of course is humorous, me Picasso. Okay, but I also started doing some serious, besides my conceptual art and my acrylic paintings, I started doing some serious paintings too. And also in my poetry and joke books, I put a serious poetry section called The Philosophies of Life, which is, I start out with humor and end with humor, but in the middle I have some actual serious poems and short stories. And here's an example of some of my book cover sketches of the future books not done yet. I get the idea, I put them down like that, and then here's a good example of one I did a sketch on. Cheesy Tunes, the Double Cheese Combo Edition, Dream Cheese, and Surreal Cali Cheese. So I bring Rich, the sketch of the book cover I want, and this is the magic he turns it into it with his computer and his magic Cintiq. I call it the magic board. So yeah, he can work wonders with it, putting it all into the finished form like this. 60 unique cartoons in each book. And so what I wanted to do was just take a few minutes to share, exactly what I did with my, with my original poems and cartoons and sketches and jokes and my paintings. And yeah, so the acrylic paintings, I just started doing them this year, and I did like 32 paintings in 32 weeks, and then I had the Dr. Cheez art exhibit at the public library. So that was a lot of fun, and I thought it was a good time to do a documentary at the same time while I was doing the art exhibit. This one's called Finished. This one's called Aristocat Brat. Like I said, most of the time I try and do put a little humor in my paintings, Jungle Jim. And then again, sometimes, like I said, I've done some serious paintings and some serious conceptual art pieces too, as well as a serious section in my joke and poetry books, a serious section called The Philosophies of Life, which is all serious poetry. And so I want to just remind you to check out, please, drcheez.com, Cheez with a Z, and there's a Facebook icon on there, Facebook/CheezyTunes. Share it with a friend or an enemy, and thanks for your time of checking out the Dr. Cheez Project documentary.